As usual, there's been a ton of breaking news over the weekend that we want to bring you up to date with. What a difference a president makes. About a year ago, poor Joe Biden was claiming nothing can be done about the border, our wide open border. All of a sudden, enter Donald Trump. In 2025, the U.S. may well be on track to see the first year of negative net migration in 50 years. That's according to CNN. Speaking of CNN, Harry Enton has dubbed Donald Trump the most influential president of the century. You see, you always have to sort of discern between the lunatics on the left who sort of distort everything and what is truth, what is really news. There's nobody better at this than John Solomon. He's the chief executive officer and editor-in-chief of Just the News. He's an award-winning investigative journalist. I consider any day I get to spend a few minutes with John Solomon is a good day. How you been, John?
Well, Mike. Good to be with you, my friend.
Thank you. It's great to see your face and hear your voice because so much has exploded over the deep state. So much has happened It really has, and you've been all over it over at Just the News. Look, I've been reading over the weekend that Biden was really the first major Democrat, and a lot of people forget this, in the summer of 2016, to publicly try to link Trump to Vladimir Putin. I mean, this goes all the way to the top. Can you give us your latest as we sit here on a Monday, August the 4th, 2025? Where does your reporting lead you about the deep state, about the Russia collusion hoax, about Obama's role, about Comey, Brennan, Clapper? Give us sort of an overview as only John Solomon can.
I'll give my best shot at it. Let's work on the big five. Let's start with Hillary Clinton. Today, Hillary Clinton seems to suggest that the Russian intercept of an alleged plan to hang a Russian shingle, a fake Russian shingle, on Donald Trump's campaign house is just disinformation. Now, how many times have we heard Russian disinformation turn out to be true, like the Hunter Biden laptop? Take her with a grain of salt. But this morning, my colleague Jerry Dunleavy did something really valuable. He went back to all the books, all the op-eds, all the interviews that Hillary Clinton and her top leaders gave during and after the 2016 election. And guess what? They confessed to exactly what the Russians allegedly intercepted. They acknowledged that in late July, Hillary Clinton herself, admits that she approved a plan to start portraying Donald Trump as a Russian stooge of Vladimir Putin. Then all of her lieutenants would go out and echo that. They worked the media. They went out with Christopher Steele's dossier and the bogus Alpha Bank allegations that were distributed by a Democratic lawyer named Michael Sussman. And so the denials now literally contradict what she said. And right now, what she said back in 16 and 17, what her aides said back in 16 and 17, matches the Russian intel. And what seems to be disinformation now are the denials that we're hearing from her. When that plan gets put into place, the first guy that comes out of the chute saying Donald Trump's got a Russia problem is the Vice President, Joe Biden. He goes out on the 26th, 27th, 28th, in fact, makes a big part of his speech at the Democratic National Convention. Donald Trump has a Russia problem. So he's the first guy out of the block. And by the way, the John Durham report, right after it looked at the Russian intercept that suggested that Hillary Clinton approved this plan, he went and got text messages. And sure as heck, those text messages show that Hillary Clinton's first overture was to Joe Biden's office. See if he'll get out of the box and run the Russia scam for us. That is now confirmed in text messages. So Joe Biden comes out of the box roaring, and then the rest of the Hillary Clinton team follows him and takes his lead. Meanwhile, let's go to the third big name in this. That is John Brennan. John Brennan is alerted in late July that the CIA has intercepted information that the Russians have appeared to know about a Hillary Clinton plan to use Russia collusion to try to get rid of the email scandal that's dominating the news and flip to a Donald Trump liability. And he is so concerned about it, he goes to the fourth big person we should be focused on, Barack Obama. Barack Obama is briefed, and then the entire leadership team of the Obama administration is briefed by early August that the Russians seem to know what Hillary Clinton is up to. Despite all of that, the fifth major player in this drama, the former FBI director, James Comey, allows his FBI to open up and authenticate and create credibility to what is a complete political dirty trick, a fake narrative invented by Hillary Clinton and her team simply to get the negative limelight off of her emails. And there, so your big five guys, or these are the five that are being looked at. All of them, that is their role. And by the way, the evidence is pretty strong.
You know, there's just no better organization than Just the News to keep up with all of this. And I'm glued to your site. I follow your podcast, John Solomon Reports. The work you guys have done is extraordinary because it's complicated, and some of it isn't sexy, you know. I mean, some of it is just doing the work, and you guys you dove into this declassified material, and you write about it in a tremendously easy to understand way. JustTheNews.com. You've got to make sure that you're plugged in the way so many of us are. John, I want to ask you a big picture question about a guy like John Brennan, because this kind of intrigues me. If you served in the government, if you were a government official and you were a CIA director or you worked in the intelligence community, and then you spent your time, and then a Republican comes into office, and you're kind of, you know, you leave and you go on about your life, is your go-to going to be to get an MSNBC gig where you can on a daily basis trash the sitting president of the United States? In other words, it's like we just take stuff for granted. We just, oh, well, John Brennan's an MSNBC contributor. If that doesn't speak to his bias, John, I don't know what does. And my point is, and I feel like the lone voice in the wilderness screaming this out, but because sometimes I don't think we ever talk about this issue enough. These are partisan people, and if he what, I mean, how do you think if you go to MSNBC and you become a paid contributor, what you were nonpartisan back when you were a government official? You know do you understand my point here? It makes me crazy.
Dude. Yeah, listen, I think we see this increasingly in the last 10 or 20 years. In the early part of the intelligence community, you know, up through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, most people who went into the intelligence community decided when they came out, they still wouldn't show their partisan colors because it would color their work. They took an oath of office to keep the secrets of the United States secret and the national security interests of the United States secret. Sometime in the last 10 or 20 years, with the rise of cable television, rise of social media, you started to see these intelligence officers come out and be overtly political. And, you know, I'm sure everybody has their political biases and their political thoughts, but in traditional intelligence world, most of your officers keep that to themselves. John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others really crossed that Rubicon. And they crossed it specifically to keep the ruse of Russian Russian collusion going. They wanted that ruse to keep going. And one of the things you'll see in Jerry Dunleavy's great story this morning is Hillary Clinton, before the election, thought that Russia would take Donald Trump down in the election. It did it. And then as soon as the election ended, they made a really significant pivot. There's an incredible op-ed by Jennifer Palmieri, her former communications director, there's speeches and books. After she lost, she wanted a plausible deniability that she didn't lose fairly. She lost because the Russians meddled in the election. And you see all of those same players now going out there and distorting the information a second time to give Hillary Clinton enough. She didn't want to have personal responsibility that maybe she should have campaigned more in Wisconsin and Michigan. Nope. She wants to blame it on someone else because Democrats have to be a victim. And here you see that victimology carry into the Trump presidency. I think the original plan was to win the election with Russia collusion. When it didn't work, the goal was to, one, give Hillary Clinton a plausible deniability why she lost. She didn't lose fair and square. And to then make it impossible for Donald Trump to succeed. And to do that, current and former intelligence officers and FBI officers in this country had to help sustain that plot. I think that's what troubles us most about John Brennan being on MSNBC. He's part of the disinformation machine.
It's the ultimate example of confirmation bias. It really is. It just confirms what it really does, and it's right under our noses. I mean, I watched over the weekend. For some reason, I went down a rabbit hole and I saw an older series about the American presidents on the History Channel, and it was kind of biased. I mean, it was like it kind of Ronald Reagan's trickle down doesn't work, and Jimmy Carter was a great president. But I don't know if you've seen it. It's a pretty good series on taking a look at every one of the presidents. Well, they interviewed Walter Cronkite. And they interviewed Walter Cronkite about a couple of presidents, Reagan and Walter Cronkite, the late Walter Cronkite, Uncle Walter. He was a Democrat. He was a lefty. You never knew it. He didn't show it. And even being interviewed as a retired, beloved news anchor about American presidents on the History Channel, he wasn't biased. He was very objective. He was very neutral. So I don't know. I'm just thinking about the Brennans and the Clappers and the Comeys of the world and how they've really stained their own legacy and their own work by confirming how sharply partisan they actually are. And doggone it, the CIA director shouldn't be politically biased, John Solomon.
I think that's exactly right. And I think you found the co-conspirator in this 10-year effort to mislead the American public, and that is the American media, who also,
that's right,
as you rightly noted with the Walter Cronkite, they didn't aid and abet politics. They tried to stay neutral arbiters. But on this story, and the many that have since followed it, they went all in. The New York Times is still, this weekend, running like Pravda propaganda, the denials that nothing possibly could happen. This whole Hillary Clinton thing is a Russian disinformation operation. I encourage the New York Times to maybe go read Jerry Dunleavy's story. She confessed to exactly what the Russians believe they intercept. Listen, there's always some questions in the way the Russians intercept information. Sometimes when they transmit it, they make some changes to it so that if anyone intercepts it, it's confusing to them. So it's possible a specific email or two is a compilation and it's then assigned to a person. That's how they transmit stuff to make sure their enemies don't intercept it. But they stumbled onto Hillary Clinton's plot, and that's why it was so important to brief President Obama in the summer 16. The gang found out, oh my gosh, our plot has already been uncovered by the Russians, and that's why everybody had to get notified. If it was disinformation, they wouldn't have taken the time to brief the president and the top leadership team of the national security apparatus of the Obama administration. So, but the news media was an aider and better then. They leaked the Steele dossier and reported it before they knew if it was true. They went with lots of anonymous leaks that are clearly wrong. They rewarded themselves with bogus stories, with Pulitzer Prizes, and then they spent most of the last 8 years denying that they got it wrong. And I think they are right alongside of John Brennan and Hillary Clinton and James Comey and the team couldn't have pulled off what they did if they didn't have aiding and abetting American news media.
Well, everybody should be reading Jerry Dunleavy's piece, and you should be following Just the News, because, John, you and your team just are doing incredible work, your best ever, and I appreciate you so very much. JustTheNews.com. Follow John at J. Solomon Reports on X. John, great to see you, and thanks for visiting with us. Keep fighting a good fight, my friend. All right,
I love your show. Glad to be with you.
Thank you, John. John Solomon joining us. Very important stuff. And, you know, we've got the Jerry Dunleavy piece posted at MikeOnline.com for you to check out. This is so important. And look, the question remains, is there going to be accountability for all this? You know, the journalists like John Solomon and Jerry Dunleavy, they can do the heavy lifting and make the world aware of what has gone down. Now it's going to be up to the people in charge to hold some of these nefarious actors accountable. Will it happen? Time will tell.